Today's topic is intuition. The first card that popped out was salmon, and it represents how fish are born knowing to swim upstream. They know where they're going. They instinctively feel it. If they're separated from their group, they can find them because they know where they're going. This reading today is a little different from the readings I've been doing recently. This one has a lot more to do with love and relationships. This is what's coming through for us today. So it's less about like the world and everything that's going on like that. This is going to be more personal to what is going on with you personally, individually, versus, you know, the world at large. Like some of the readings I've been doing kind of have been the focus on. So the first card that came out was Ace of Moons. This is Ace of Cups. So this is a new start on love. This could be a deeper relationship with yourself, like experiencing self-love. This could also have to do with a new relationship that you're starting with somebody. In some way, this is a new level of love that you maybe previously weren't experiencing. So for some of you guys who are single, you might be getting into a new relationship, or you might be diving in a little deeper into a relationship with yourself, especially if you're maybe recently single, because I'm getting some people might be recently single. And the reason I'm saying that is because the next card is Ten of Swords. And Ten of Swords is like the end of a tough journey. I mean, you can see they fought all the way to get to where they need to go. And so the Ten of Swords kind of lets you know like it's over, right? The Nine of Swords right before this one is whenever you can't sleep, like you're in so much torture and so much turmoil that you're unable to sleep. Ten of Swords is the next step. This is the end. It's over. So for some of you guys, this is an actual relationship that you're leaving. For some other of you, it might be a way that you've thought about yourself. Maybe you are abandoning that thought of yourself and now you're diving into this next step of self-love. You know, a lot of us have so many steps on the journey of our lives, right? And we do it repeatedly, like in cycles. For some people, they live the same cycle repeatedly. For other people, things change because you learned your lessons. So it's important to embrace what you've learned from this aspect that you're moving away from. It's really important to remember what you've learned so that whenever you do face like maybe a repeated situation, you respond differently. Something that's coming to my mind right now is maybe in a past abusive relationship, you might not have stood up for yourself. You know, you might have just maybe been like, oh, like maybe you felt sorry for them, because a lot of abusers really utilize that, right? They utilize pity and like want to make you feel bad, or look at what you've done to me, whenever it's like they're the one doing everything. They're the one doing too much. Abusers make it like their full-time job. Like, it's like, wow, if you put this much effort into like the workforce, you could be like so successful, but instead you're working around the clock, not sleeping, abusing me. But yeah, so through these battles and through these things, you've learned that you should stand up for yourself, because every time you didn't, it didn't make things better, it made things worse. And if you've ever been in a relationship with somebody who's a narcissist, every time you don't stand up for yourself, the meaner they get. And then you do randomly stand up for yourself. Let's say finally you get fed up and you stand up for yourself. And then, you know, they play the victim card and they love bomb you and they do all this stuff, and then you're back with them. And then they treat you worse, you know? Maybe at first it'll be like, oh, things were good for a little while, but it's like every time you forgave them and you're with them for a while, the like span of which that they would behave gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And for a lot of people, whenever they get close to being done is whenever there isn't a gap anymore, when there's no love bombing period, because it does start to get to that level. I've been like that in a romantic relationship and in a friendship before, where it's like you just get to the point of like, they treat you bad, you stand up for yourself, they get mad at you, and then, you know, they act like a victim, and then you come back and then they're immediately rude to you again. And it becomes like, wow, you're so pathetic for not standing up for yourself. You're so this, you're so that. And it just like really dogs down on you. And, you know, and the first time that happened to me when I was in a romantic relationship with somebody, it really did eventually make me get to the point where I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't leave this person because I had tried to so many times. And he would just like break down crying and say he needed me and like all these things. And then I would just give in. And then, you know, he would treat me good for a little bit. But then eventually it started to get to the point where it was just like, yeah, you were stupid for thinking you could break up with me. It just started becoming like that. And then I had a friend many years later where she was very similar, you know, just like she would like cry and break down and be like she was losing me and all this stuff. And then she would turn around as soon as like, You know, we worked things out. As soon as we were back to where we were, she was treating me like crap again. There was like no love bombing period anymore. And so for a lot of people, it's like getting to that point is when you start to realize what's going on. With my first romantic relationship, I didn't know it was narcissistic abuse. I just moved on, as in I was like, I'm going to look for red flags, and if I find them in a relationship, I'm going to leave. That was like my way that I tried to deal with it. And then I just happened to meet my husband, who's a very sweet person, a really nice person, and I didn't really have to meet any red flags with him. If something did happen that made me uncomfortable, I just confronted him about it, and then he just was receptive, and then we moved forward. So, you know, maybe even if it did involve shadow work for him or triggering for him, it was like, for the most part, we worked on things and moved forward, and there were like tangible changes, you know, where it was just like, oh, okay. And I learned a lot about myself too, of course, you know, I'm not going to act like he had to change a whole bunch and I was perfect. It was a normal functional relationship, right? No one was being abused, you know, like it just was a normal progression of a relationship. So for a lot of you guys, you're kind of like at that aspect of like realizing those things and like apply that to your new relationships. Like, you know, the steps, you've been there, you've been through that cycle. Don't fall for it again, you know better. So in this new relationship, just make sure to be true to yourself. And if this is a deeper level of self-love, analyze those things and go through like, what makes you feel at peace now? What makes you feel loved? How are you expressing love to yourself? And prioritize that. The next card we have down here is the Knight of Wands. And so this gives me a little bit of an aspect of like wanting to protect your passion for a lot of you guys. So there's something that you are very passionate about, and maybe in your past relationships, people have tried to take that passion from you or make it less important so that you would pay attention to them or something. So now you're at this aspect where you're like, no, I really care about this thing. I'm very passionate about this thing, and I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to protect myself. And that's really important. You know, I won't go super on about it because I don't want to run out of time, but you get the gist, right? And then we have the World here. This tells me that you will have a successful outcome from this. You know, I think relationships are so tumultuous, you know what I mean? So I would hate to be like, yes, happily ever after, you've met your soulmate. I would never want to promise somebody that, even if the soulmate connection might be something negative. But the World here does tell me that you do have the World. So that tells me that you're at the end of the journey. You're ready for the next step. You're ready for this new aspect of your life. And I do see success with it, for sure. I don't want to say I don't see success. I do see success with it. I do see that this will be a positive outcome. This is something that you can feel confident in, and you've worked really hard to get here. And so what you're achieving right now is deserved, and you 100% deserve it. That's what I'm getting here. And I know that you will protect it, and that's what's important as well. The last card we have here is the New Moon. So this is about embracing the shadow and continuing to do shadow work. So just because you might be feeling happy or whatever, just remember to not... What's coming to my mind right now is I was talking about, you know, being triggered, right? Or, you know, seeing red flags and stuff. So what I want you to do is, as you're embracing this new relationship, and you might be scared of success. And that might be something that you have to work through because it's just something you haven't experienced before. In relationships before, you might have thought things were good, but you realized you were being love bombed, right? So I want you to do the shadow work, and I want you to really listen to your intuition. That was the whole topic today, right? Listen to your intuition. And your intuition is something that is different than anxiety. When you feel anxious, you're worrying. You're worrying about what will happen. But whenever you have intuition, you know something is happening. And for a lot of women, it's like whenever they knew that their partner was cheating on them, they just knew. They weren't worrying about it. They just knew. And they went to go find proof. I'm a super advocate for, you don't need proof that someone is cheating to leave. If they're doing the steps and they're making you feel certain ways and you don't feel safe and you don't feel secure, the relationship just isn't for you. Whether that's on their fault or on your fault, whatever, right? It's just not a secure relationship. And if it can't become secure, there's no point in continuing to entertain it. So that is the end of my reading here because I'm running out of time. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever, or you can buy me a cup of coffee if you really like my videos, and I will see you next time.